Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. On the day of my wedding, my elder sister schemed to switch our bridal sedan chairs. I ended up becoming a stepmother to someone else's children, while she married the top scholar. When we met again, she was heavily pregnant while I was locked in constant arguments with my stepson. Watching my smugly giggling elder sister, I too began to smile. What you thought was diverting trouble eastward? Who knows if someone wasn't secretly giving it a push? Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Get out. I don't want you as my mother. The moment I stepped out of the sedan chair, a rotten egg came flying straight at my face. I froze for a second, then immediately reached to tear off my red bridal veil when I felt the slime dripping down from it. The maid Chunin held me back. Young mistress, this is against the rules. Only your husband may lift this bridal veil. I remained silent for a moment before suddenly pushing her aside and tearing off the red veil that obscured my vision. Pointing at the red cloth soaked with foul-smelling mucus on the ground, I sneered. Are you expecting me to wear this thing all night waiting in the bridal chamber? Or is there something you don't want me to see when I lift the veil? This servant wouldn't dare. Chin fell to her knees with a thud. Meanwhile, the boy who had thrown eggs at me earlier came closer, scrutinizing my face repeatedly. He asked suspiciously, "Aren't you Xiao Zanju?" I glanced at him, then looked up at the plaque above the mansion, General's residence. I'm Xiao Mingsu, younger sister of Xiao Zanju. May I ask if this is the General's residence? The boy didn't answer me, his face gradually revealing a gloating expression. Haha, what a bunch of fools. They've carried the wrong bride. No wedding for them now. I'll go tell my father. He'll kick all you idiots out. Chun Qin stared at the boy's retreating figure, a flash of irritation in her eyes. As she made to stand up again, I pressed down heavily on her shoulder. The sudden movement made her flinch. Chun Qin, if I recall correctly, the General's residence is where elder sister belongs, while my bridal sedan should be heading to the Yuan Unk's mansion. Miss, this servant cannot read. This servant doesn't know either. I let out a cold laugh and turned my gaze to the wedding procession members who were all trembling with fear. I'll get to the bottom of this later. All of you hurry and separately inform my father and the Liu family. The crowd hastily assent. Yet their movements became increasingly sluggish, each trying to outdo the other in dawdling. I gradually had an idea in my mind. Moments later, the sound of firm, resolute footsteps approached. If you've carried the wrong person, why haven't you sent her back immediately? The impatient voice suddenly trailed off. I tilted my head and locked eyes with the master of the mansion, General Peshu. His gaze at me seemed momentarily dazed, a flash of admiration flickering in his eyes. I studied him carefully. Peshu was over a decade older than me, though today was clearly his wedding day. He had just returned from who knows where, still clad in blood-stained armor, his entire body radiating a murderous aura. To be honest, if I had a choice, I truly wouldn't want to associate with someone like him. Daddy, hurry up. Chase her away. Chase her away. The little boy from earlier rushed forward and shook Peshu Unk's leg. Presumably, this was Peshu Unk's only son, Pian. Peshu responded perfunctorily, his gaze falling back on me once more. I gave him a faint smile. He took a few steps forward, his eyes burning as they fixed on me. You are the fourth daughter of the Chao family, Xiao Mingsu. Just as I was about to bow in reply, a servant suddenly came running over in haste. General, someone from the Yuan mansion has arrived. Upon hearing this, Peshu lowered his gaze, concealing the emotions that had just flickered in his eyes. Since they've sent someone, let's quickly switch back the bridal sedan before the auspicious hour passes. I sighed inwardly. This bridal sedan chair probably can't be exchanged back. The Yuan Unk's residence wasn't much closer than the General's mansion. By all reasoning, my elder sister should have stepped out of her sedan chair around the same time as me. The fact that the Yuan Unk's household could send someone over so quickly could only mean they had prepared for this in advance. Sure enough, the servant said nervously. General, their messenger said the bride and groom have already entered the wedding chamber. Since things have come to this, perhaps we should let the mistake stand. Who knows? This might turn out to be two blessed marriages where the wrong Paulines carried the right brides. Preposterous Peso sword-like brows furrowed. How can ancestral marriage arrangements be treated so frivolously? Lu Jingyan may write elegant prose. But has he completely lost his senses? He turned to look at me, hesitation coloring his tone. Miss Minggu, do you have any thoughts on this matter? I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes, putting on a delicate and helpless demeanor. As a mere daughter, Minggu obeys her family's arrangements. I've already sent the wedding procession back to inform my parents. They should be arriving any moment now. As soon as the words fell, Pian scoffed with disdain. What terrible luck. Your Chow family's comings and goings have wasted so much of our household's time. My stomach is growling with hunger. I took out a handkerchief-wrapped wedding cake from my sleeve, gently unfolded the cloth and offered it to Pei Tian with a soft voice. This was prepared by my grandmother, who worried I might get hungry while waiting in the bridal chamber. If the young master doesn't mind, please take it to stave off your hunger. Pen's eyes widened in surprise, while Peshu Unk's gaze revealed a hint of admiration. Yet, in the next instant, Pen's expression reverted to arrogance as he violently swatted the wedding pastry from my hand, sending it tumbling to the ground. Who would eat something so filthy? Get lost? He cursed before running away. Tenapesu was clearly furious too, and was about to chase after her to scold her when another servant came running. General, the Xiao family has also sent a reply. How so? They also wish for our household to let the mistake stand, and they said. The servant hesitated, glancing at me. They also said that if not for this mistake, such a good match as the general's household would never have gone to a concubine-born daughter. Pesu was taken aback. How could this be considered a good match? Any family in the capital who truly cares for their daughter would likely be unwilling to betroth her to me. His gaze flickered with pity as he looked at me. Miss Mingju, if you have any thoughts, you may speak frankly. Peshu would never force you. Finding dizziness, I stumbled and was about to fall when Pesu reached out and caught me in his arms. Pressed close, our body warmth mingling. I looked up at him with tearful vulnerability. General, your divine valor is unmatched. This humble woman knows her status is unworthy of you. But after today's unexpected incident, if I'm sent back home, I'll become the laughingstock of the entire capital, never to find a good marriage again. If you wouldn't disdain this humble woman, I would willingly follow you. My eyes half closed, cheeks flushed crimson. Pesu Unk's throat moved slightly before he suddenly swept me up with startling aggression, striding swiftly toward the bedchamber. A maidservant ventured timidly. General, is Miss Minghu also being welcomed into the manor as the principal wife? Pu declared in a deep voice. From this day forward, Xiao Mingzhu shall be the mistress of my general's Unk's manor. With that he kicked the door shut. As the door slammed closed, I caught a glimpse of Chu Chin Unk's sly smile curling at the corners of her lips. After a night of absurdity, Pesu had to rise early to inspect the training grounds. Hazily, I heard him whisper instructions. Don't disturb her. Let her sleep until she's fully rested. A subtle feeling stirred within me. Hearing him leave the residence, I promptly got up as well. The maid shouts from the general's household attended to my washing and dressing. She was quick and efficient with her hands, though her mouth never seemed to stop. Madam, those maids who came with you from your family are too lazy. That one called Chonkin, who seems to be your personal attendant. How could she be so careless on such an important day for you still sleeping? I smiled faintly without saying much. But Zayu grew even more indignant on my behalf. Pesu Unk's parents had passed away early, so I had no in-laws to serve, and he himself was busy from dawn till dusk, leaving all matters of the household entirely to my management. Within less than a month, I had consolidated full authority over the general's household, apart from Pian Unk's continued mischief. Everyone in the general's residence had submitted to my arrangements. Pu was genuinely surprised to see how well I had everything arranged. I smiled secretly to myself. After all, the general's mansion had few people. Even if some pretty maids harbored petty schemes, they wouldn't stand a chance against the intrigues of the Xiao family's inner courtyard, let alone compared to my previous life, having endured human conflicts 100 times more brutal. I awoke from a nightmare. My elder sister and Pesu had been betrothed since childhood. However, Peshu followed his father on a distant campaign in his youth, and returned to the capital over a decade later to receive his title only to bring back a child. Rumors spread through the capital that the child was the result of Pesu Unk's dalliance with a camp prostitute. Naturally, my sister was utterly disgusted and unwilling to become stepmother to a prostitute's bastard. Yet, Peshu now held a higher official rank than the Chow family. Though our father and stepmother doted on her, they dared not break off the engagement. That's why they hatched the scheme of switching bridal sedan chairs. My legitimate sister had long been secretly involved with the top scholar Lu Jingyan. Coming from a poor family, he naturally preferred marrying the legitimate daughter of the Chow family over me in my nightmare of the past life. I had discovered the anomaly with the bridal sedan early on and made a scene to switch it back. So, I never understood where Lu Jingyi-Unk's sudden resentment and loathing towards me came from. All I knew was that from the second day onward, he kept bringing concubines into the household, forcing me into endless domestic struggles, transforming from an innocent girl into a bitter housewife, until I discovered I was pregnant, thinking that my suffering had finally come to an end and that I had found my lifelong support. When I rushed to Lu Jingyi-Unk's forest retreat to surprise him, I was shocked to find him and my elder sister embracing each other in a daze. Panicked, I tried to flee but accidentally stepped on a branch, making a sound. The two of them snapped back to reality and noticed me. My elder sister cried out in fear. Jing General Pei must never find out about us. Thus Lu Jingyi-Unk's sword pierced through my abdomen. One corpse, two lives. After waking from the nightmare, my first act was to break off the engagement with the Lu family. Yet, father and the legal wife adamantly refused, calling me ungrateful. Even grandmother, who was closest to me in the household, came to persuade me. I once comforted myself thinking, what if everything was just a dream and my worries wouldn't come true? Yet fragments of past lives began resurfacing one after another. My elder sister insisted on marrying the same day as me, often whispering secretly with my personal maiden. When Lu Jingyan visited the Chow residence, he exchanged flirtatious glances with my sister. I finally became certain that wasn't a nightmare, but my terrifying past life. Since I can't escape the fate of marriage, this time, I've decided to turn their scheme to my advantage. I'll go along with their wishes. In my past life, my elder sister's marriage to Pu was far from happy, with constant quarrels and arguments between her and Pian, but I still want to give it a try. Could it really be so bad as to end with 2 lives lost? As for my elder sister and Lu Jingyan, that loving pair of lovebirds with no one to stand in their way this time, how far will they go? Lost in these thoughts, a commotion broke out outside. It seemed climbing trees to catch birds again. I walked out helplessly and called up at the tree. Xiaoan, have you finished today's schoolwork? Pian shouted impatiently. None of your business, right? None of my business. But when your father comes back later to check your homework, it won't be me getting the ruler. Will you stop nagging? I just hate studying. You must be terrible at schoolwork too. Otherwise, why would your father dislike you so much? Shou was startled and spoke up to dissuade. Young master, you mustn't speak nonsense to the madam. So what if I do in this household? My father is the greatest and I come second. Who does she think she is? Zaiwei looked at me uneasily. Madam, children's words carry no harm. Please don't take it to heart. Sunk, all right. I smiled faintly. What he said isn't wrong. I couldn't tell whether Pian was just spouting nonsense to humiliate me, or if he had noticed something from the Xiao family's attitude during that bridal sedan chair incident. My father truly despised me among all his concubine-born daughters. I was the one he looked down upon most. Back then, my mother was merely a maid serving my grandmother when he forced himself upon her in drunkenness. After giving birth to me, not only did my father refuse to acknowledge me, he even suspected I was the bastard child of my mother and some other man. In utter despair, my mother ended her life by throwing herself into a well. Only then did my grandmother step forward in anger, taking me under her wing to raise me herself. So when my legitimate elder sister refused to marry into the general's household to become a stepmother, my father naturally thought of me first. He completely disregarded that I hadn't yet reached the most suitable age for marriage and utterly ignored that Peisu was over a decade older than me. What rank does she hold? Let me ask you, what rank do you hold in the general's household? Second fiddle. Peshu voice suddenly sounded behind me, pulling me out of my memories. Father. Tien climbed down from the tree reluctantly. After a few words of reprimand, the boy returned to his room to do his homework with a pout. Just as I reached out to take the cloak Peshu had removed, he suddenly scooped me up in his arms and strode swiftly toward the bedroom. The maid's laughter followed behind us. In a moment of panic, I immediately wrapped my arms around his neck, assuming a docile and compliant posture. Peshu, usually preoccupied with military affairs and past his 30s with children, was someone I had never imagined to be so vigorous. But it was just as well I had to seize the opportunity while he hadn't grown tired of me yet in the throes of passion. I nestled close to Poo's ear and whispered in a soft voice, "General, according to tradition, after a daughter is married, she should return to her parents' home with her husband. I wonder if you might have some free time in the coming days." Pesu remained silent, quietly watching me. Given his current status, it was understandable if he couldn't be bothered with such formalities at the Chow family. In my past life, Pesu hadn't accompanied my elder sister on her return visit either. I maintained a polite smile on my face, but my mind was already working on alternative plans. A sudden warmth bloomed between my brows. Pesu planted a kiss there before drawing back. "Yes, my oversight. We won't make things difficult today. Tomorrow at first light, I'll have the household prepare gifts. Tenna and I will accompany you." I murmured my thanks repeatedly. After Pesu fell asleep, I reached up to touch my forehead. My heartbeat belatedly quickened just a little. The next day, when returning to the Chow residence, whether by coincidence or having caught wind of it beforehand, my elder sister and Lu Jinggan were already there, chatting warmly with my parents in the main hall. When they noticed Pooh and Pian entering, Father quickly rose to greet them, instructing the servants to bring 2 chairs. Pian gave the room a strange look and asked, "Mother, why didn't they bring a chair for you?" The entire room fell silent at once. I found myself both amused and exasperated. Pen's first time calling me mother had to be under such circumstances. Why wasn't a chair brought for me? Naturally, because Father habitually overlooked me, his illegitimate daughter. Only when Pian called out did he seem to jolt awake after all. I was now the general's wife. He hastily amended his order. Three armchairs. The 3 of us finally took our seats. My elder sister cast a meaningful glance, gently stroking her slightly rounded belly. "Mingju, having a son is truly comforting. I hope this child of mine will also grow to be a filial son who honors his parents." Her words were undoubtedly a veiled jab at Pian not being my biological child, implying I was merely playing the role of a stepmother. I was just about to retort with some sarcastic remarks, but unexpectedly, Pian spoke even faster than I could. "What are you saying? Daughters aren't filial, or is it because you yourself are an unfilial daughter that you have such insights?" My elder sister's face turned cold and Lu Jinggan slammed the table angrily, saying, "Young master, mind your words. It seems your general's household emphasizes martial arts too much and neglects the teachings of scholars' etiquette. Zan, who is your aunt? How can you speak to her like this?" Pian pouted while Pesu took a sip of tea with a faint smile. Now Scholar Lu suddenly remembers propriety when speaking to my son. On your wedding day, the Lu residents probably skipped the ceremonial bows altogether and went straight to the wedding night. Did propriety cross your mind then? Lu Jingyan was instantly rendered speechless. Pen also snorted. "Uncle, is your eyesight not so good? My mother is much prettier than Auntie. How could you mistake the bride in the wedding chamber? Or was it intentional?" My legitimate elder sister was trembling with rage. This was likely the first time she had ever been treated this way in her own home. My stepmother quickly nudged my father, signaling him to say something. Just as he was about to speak, Pesu interjected. "I've heard my father-in-law is also a tea enthusiast. His Majesty recently bestowed upon me some Pre-Ra Longjing tea, and I've included some in today's bridal return gifts. I hope you won't find it unworthy." How could I dare? "Thank you, General." Father dared not say anything more. Just then, a servant entered and announced, "The Daja has arrived." The awkward atmosphere in the room finally eased somewhat. My legitimate elder sister also seemed to regain her composure. "Seeing how well you and the General get along now as your elder sister, I can rest assured, but you must still be careful in the future. The general is rather unconventional. Who knows when another dancer's child or maid's child might appear? On my memory, I forgot my sister was born to a maidservant herself. Hey Tilda. Pin sneered. Auntie should worry more about yourself. Who knows when Uncle might bring home some childhood sweetheart's child before your wedding. I saw Uncle arguing endlessly with a woman on the street. She kept claiming she was his childhood sweetheart from the countryside. The legitimate elder sister immediately darkened her face and glared at Lu Jingyan, who hastily explained, Pearl, she was just a former neighbor from my rural hometown. Peisu scoffed coldly. Neighbor? Then how come I heard that Scholar Lu was once betrothed to her? My elder sister clenched her fists about to press further when grandmother arrived at the doorway. As everyone rose to greet her, grandmother suddenly beckoned to me. Mingju, come here. Your grandmother forgot to give you some of her dowry. I followed grandmother out of the room. Hearing my elder sister's indignant voice behind us, grandmother always gives Mingju all the good things. How could she forget I'm the true daughter of the Chow family? Grandmother turned to me with a helpless smile, signaling me not to stoop to her level as we walked to the pavilion in the back garden. She took a phoenix-patterned gold bracelet from her sleeve and handed it to me. Mingju, are you well at the general's residence? Have you suffered any grievances? Everything is fine. Pooh treats me with great consideration, and Pian is a bit more boisterous, but not exactly unruly. Grandmother, this gold bracelet was a gift from the Empress Daja back then. The dowry you gave me was already much more generous than my sister's. I really shouldn't accept this bracelet as well, but grandmother insisted on putting it on me. I sighed. Grandmother, you knew about the bridal sedan switch too, didn't you? Grandmother's face showed clear remorse. Minggu, don't blame your grandmother. I had to think of the Chow family's interests. I smiled and said, how could I resent grandmother? You're the only one in the Chow family who's ever treated me well. No matter what, I'll repay your kindness and be filial to you in the future. However, now that I'm the mistress of the general's manor, naturally, I'll prioritize the general's household over the Chow family from now on. Grandmother looked at me for a long while before sighing in response. I knew that from the moment I married out, our grandmother-granddaughter bond would gradually fade away. In my past life, I suffered deeply in the back chambers of the Lu residence, begging my grandmother countless times to persuade my father to agree to my divorce. But grandmother always told me to consider the bigger picture. I knew she pitied me and empathized with me. Yet in her heart as the family matriarch, the dignity and reputation of the Chow family ultimately weighed far more than I did. After speaking with grandmother, I decided to call for Pooh and Pen to leave. My elder sister blocked my path first. Staring at the golden bracelet on my wrist, she said bitterly, Grandmother actually gave this bracelet to you. Xiao Minggu, don't get too cocky. How does it feel to be someone's stepmother? Especially being stepmother to that lowly military prostitute Pei Ten Unk-'s bastard. Noticing a small figure hiding in the corner from the corner of my eye, I smiled and said, what could be more fitting than a maidservant's daughter becoming stepmother to a military prostitute's child? A person's worth was never determined by bloodline. Though Penne has some childish temper, he's bold and righteous like his father. Even if I never bear my own child, having such a fine young man call me mother would be enough to satisfy me. My elder sister was momentarily speechless. I continued provoking her. Sister, you'd better go investigate that childhood sweetheart of the Lu family. While I'll naturally be Pei's only mother, what if Lu Jinggan someday brings home a child? Would you remain his sole mother? The only mistress of Lu Manor. Don't let people laugh at you when the time comes. My sister turned deathly pale without even mustering a retort. She turned and fled. A faint smile curled on my lips in the carriage back to the general's residence. Pian kept stealing glances at me. When I asked what was wrong, he finally pulled out a handful of malt candies from his robe. They tasted really good at the Chow residence just now, so I insisted on getting a big handful. Have some too, mother. With a smile I took one, unwrapped it and fed him the first bite. Peisu watched this scene with a glimmer of relief in his eyes. He moved closer to me and was about to take my hand when I turned my face away to avoid him. Peisu froze for a moment, exchanging a glance with Pian, who also looked utterly bewildered. Throughout the journey I continued chatting and laughing with Tin as usual, yet deliberately ignored Pooh. When we arrived at the general's residence, Pesu stepped down first and reached out to help me. But I still walked past him into the estate without acknowledgement. Behind me I could hear the father and son whispering to each other. "Dad, why did you make Mom angry?" "I don't know." After dinner I went to the study by myself. A while later Ten cautiously knocked on the door. "Mom, it's me, Xiaoan, what's the matter?" After Payan entered, he cautiously approached and unexpectedly began with an apology. "Mother, I've reflected on my actions before. I was deliberately mischievous because I'd read in storybooks that stepmothers are terrifying. But you're nothing like those stepmothers in the tales. I promise I'll never act up in front of you again. I'll study hard and strive to improve." I patted his head and smiled, saying, "Good boy." But the melancholy in her eyes remained. Pen noticed it keenly and asked again what was wrong. After a moment of silence I confessed. "Ever since returning from the Chow residence, I've been thinking about what those people there said. It truly hurt me." Pen clenched his teeth for a while before suddenly declaring, "Mother, then you and Father should have another child of your own. That way you won't be sad anymore." "I absolutely won't object." I was startled. "You silly child. I was just thinking that having too many children really isn't good. Not just between me and Xiao Zanju, but even among other siblings there are often conflicts. Having one lively child like you in the general's residence is enough. I don't have the energy to take care of more." Pen said awkwardly. "Oh, but I still really hope to have a younger brother or sister. Honestly, I'm older now and I won't be so unruly anymore. Let the younger ones be the troublemakers, and I'll help you scold them together." His words made me laugh. And just then Pesu entered the room. "So you weren't angry about something? You were just thinking about this," he said. He waved his hand to signal Pian to leave, then sat down beside me and took my hand. "Mingju, our general's residence is different from the Chow residence, and I'm confident that I'm a different kind of father from yours. How children grow up depends more on how their parents guide them. Rest assured, I will definitely raise all our children to be upright people." Peshu Unk's eyes were full of sincerity, and I couldn't help but squeeze his hand in return. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Then to help Xiaoan achieve his dreams sooner, shouldn't we work harder?" My cheeks flushed red as I nodded slightly. At night, gazing at Peshu sleeping soundly beside me, a faint smile curled at the corners of my lips. Had I truly never considered having a child of my own flesh and blood? How could that be possible? A little deliberate concession earned me this pair's remorse along with their promise to jointly take responsibility for the child's upbringing. Worth it. Several days later, when I took Pei Ten out shopping, I spotted my elder sister from afar, her belly swollen, her face haggard. She saw me too, her eyes blazing with anger as if she wanted to charge over. Pain immediately stepped in front of me. My elder sister glared at me resentfully before gritting her teeth and leaving. Upon returning to the estate, Pen immediately blurted out the incident. Pesu frowned and said, "The Lu family has indeed been unsettled lately. Besides Lu Jingyi-Unk's childhood sweetheart, it seems a few other mistresses have also been dragged into the mess. Xiao Zanhu became pregnant as soon as she entered the household. Naturally, Lu Jinggan couldn't stay idle." Pen immediately warned, "Father, you mustn't follow his example and sneak around outside once mother is pregnant. What kind of man do you take your father for? From now on, you should follow your father's example in matters of the heart. Understand?" The father and son began roughhousing again. After returning to my room while Xiaoi was combing my hair, she whispered, "Madam, you were truly clever to have me find people to stir up trouble among Lu Jingyi-Unk's women." I smiled wryly. What cleverness was there? It was all just lessons learned from past suffering. Lu Jingyan himself was a philandering womanizer in my past life. Under the pretense of not marrying the woman he loved, he kept bringing concubines and mistresses into the household. My elder sister actually believed him and repeatedly engaged in secret affairs with him, because he couldn't marry the one he loved. He married 10 or 100 other women instead. How foolish must a woman be to believe that? Shou lowered her voice again. "Madam, I only dare say this to you in secret. The general was quite the philander back in the army. Naturally, he's still fascinated with you now that you've just entered his household. But sooner or later, the day will come when he takes concubines or elevates maids to secondary wives. You must prepare yourself early, I laughed and said. Taking concubines, elevating maids, even visiting brothel, I don't care. As long as the household authority remains in my hands, shouts. Remember this. A man's love is unreliable. Money and power are the only things a woman can truly rely on for life. Xiaowai nodded in confusion. Your unc quite generous. Pesha unc's cold voice interjected. Xiaowai turned pale with fright. I waved her away and faced Pooh directly. Every word I just said was sincere. I Xiaoming Su don't seek lasting love. Merely mutual respect as husband and wife will suffice. As long as you let me maintain my position as the mistress of the general's household, I won't interfere with your romantic dances. Pooh sneered. Very well, since you've put it that way. I'll truly go seek my pleasures then. Having said this, he turned to leave. But halfway out he suddenly looked back at me. Who are you making that unhappy face for? I subconsciously touched the corner of my mouth. It really was turned downward. Pooh smiled as he carried me to the couch. I said awkwardly, I truly don't believe in love that lasts a lifetime. But I do, Xiaominggu, why don't we bet our entire lives to see who comes out the winner in the end? After a night of passion, Peisu gently caressed my belly and I said helplessly, You can't feel a child just by touching. It depends on heaven's will. I know, Peisu replied, continuing to stroke for a while before suddenly leaning close to my ear. Minggu, actually Xiaowen isn't my biological child. Back in the army, a comrade of mine fell in love with a foreign slave girl. After he died in battle, she followed him in death, leaving behind only the newborn Xiaowen. I feared his background might invite criticism, which is why I kept it hidden. My eyes widened in surprise thanks to the joint efforts of Pooh and myself. 3 months later, the physician confirmed my pregnancy. Pen was overjoyed and immediately insisted on taking me and Pooh to celebrate with a feast at the tavern. Who would have thought that on our way we witnessed an utterly absurd scene? My elder sister, wielding a bamboo pole, was beating a woman who scrambled frantically down the street. You shameless fox spirit. How dare you seduce my husband? You're from a decent family too. Have you no shame at all? I quickly covered Pen's ears. There were many onlookers around, and Peisu pulled me aside, shaking his head to signal me not to meddle in others' affairs. After arriving at the restaurant, I looked down from the window and saw Lu Jinggan rushing over to drag my elder sister away, finally putting an end to the commotion. Yet I couldn't help but frown repeatedly. If I hadn't misseen, my elder sister's abdomen was actually flat. How could this be? She should clearly be 6 or 7 months pregnant by now. Noticing my confusion, Peisu finally sighed. I originally wanted to keep it from you, afraid you'd worry. Last month, your sister caught Lu Jinggan having an affair with another woman at his forest retreat. During the struggle between the 3 of them, the child couldn't be saved at that moment. I didn't know what to feel, but suddenly I recalled my past life when I was stabbed through with a sword, killing both me and my unborn child. My hands and feet turned cold. Peisu warmed my hands for me, telling me not to overthink it or get involved. I lowered my head and looked at my slightly rounded belly, letting out a long sigh. That night, my carriage stopped at a quiet street corner. After a while, the carriage curtain was lifted, and my elder sister stepped in with a cold expression. Xiaominggu, what are you sneaking around to meet me for? I pulled out an envelope stuffed with banknotes from my bosom and handed it over. I heard you went back to the Chow residence a few days ago to ask our parents for money and they refused. My elder sister's eyes instantly flashed with anger. What? Here to laugh at my misfortune? Xiaominggu, you're living the high life now? The general dotes on you? Your stepson obeys you and you're even pregnant. But the only reason you have such good fortune is because I switched the bridal sedan. Otherwise, this wretched marriage with the Liu family should have been yours. As she spoke, her eyes re-beamed again. Had I known it would come to this, I might as well have gone to be a stepmother. At least then I wouldn't have lost my own child. I sneered coldly. People have different temperaments. Had you chosen to be a stepmother, you might not have achieved my current success. Perhaps it would have just been another miserable marriage. In her previous life, even after marrying Peshu, my elder sister didn't find happiness. Peisu slept in the military camp every night, eventually even bringing Pian there. He took 2 concubines and completely stopped returning to the general's residence. During these absences, my sister secretly carried on an affair with Lu Jingyan. Recalling these events from past and present lives, I sighed with emotion while shaking the envelope in my hand. To take or not to take, my elder sister gritted her teeth and snatched it away. I chuckled. Xiao Zanhu, do you know why our parents wouldn't even spare a few hundred taels for you? My elder sister froze momentarily, then shook her head in equal bewilderment. They've been busy preparing betrothal gifts for second brother and buying an official position for third brother. Money is needed everywhere these days. Xiao Zanju, no matter how much father and mother do on you, can they ever favor you over our brothers? You spend all your time comparing yourself to us, your half-sisters. But why don't you compete with those half-brothers? Yes, compared to us, your father and mother's treasure, but in front of those sons, what are you really? Have you ever truly seen your place in this family? When Lu Jingyan tormented you, and you cried every day begging for a divorce, did father and mother ever show you any kindness? And now, because of their neglect, Lu Jingyan has grown even more contemptuous of you, hasn't he? My elder sister's face darkened with shifting emotions as she fell into silence. No third party knew of the conversation between my elder sister and me. From that day onward, people in the capital gradually noticed that the top scholar's wife seemed to have undergone a dramatic change in temperament. She became much more gentle and modest, even taking the initiative to help her husband select concubines. For a time, the couple appeared to have truly regained the harmony of their early married days. However, just as the top scholar's wife's life was improving, the top scholar himself suddenly fell gravely ill, suffering from constant feverish sweats, soreness in his back and legs, and was unable to leave his bed. Rumor spread in the capital that it was because Lu, the top scholar, had indulged in excessive debauchery, damaging his vital essence. Meanwhile, his devoted wife never left his side, personally brewing soups and feeding him medicine, while also making daily pilgrimages to the temple, prostrating herself 3 times and kowtowing 9 times each visit, and donating large sums of incense money. Her reputation as a virtuous wife quickly spread throughout the capital. Sadly, not long after, Lu Jingyan still succumbed to his illness and passed away on the day of the funeral. My elder sister wept until she fainted and nearly threw herself against the coffin in grief. When the emperor and empress learned of this, they were moved by her devotion and granted her the title of a noble woman. The news was brought to me by Peshu. With my delivery date approaching, I had rarely ventured outside. As Pu massaged me with essential oils, he casually mentioned the matter, then suddenly asked, "If you were in Xiaoying Unk's position, what would you do?" I answered truthfully, "I didn't do as well as she did. I'm much more foolish than her." Pesu smiled and said, "That's because you didn't have a kind sister to guide you." I froze for a moment, meeting his knowing and amused gaze, and only then realized that none of my private interactions with my elder sister had escaped the notice of this great general. Later, I heard that my elder sister still frequently visited the Chao residence, until our parents began hinting, both subtly and overtly, that they hoped this titled lady could provide more support for her brothers in the family. My elder sister rarely returned to the Chao residence anymore. One day when I brought gifts to visit our grandmother, I heard her sighing about how unfit my elder sister had become. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. Not long after, my elder sister left the capital. The last I heard of her was in a letter she sent saying she planned to settle in Jiangnan and start a small business. I wrote back wishing her all the best in the days to come. On the day my daughter was born, the entire general's residence was overjoyed. And Pian even competed with the wet nurses to hold his little sister, puffing out his small chest. He looked at me with bright, determined eyes and promised that now that he was older, he would study and practice martial arts diligently to set a good example for his sister. Pesu and I exchanged a knowing smile. The little lord was finally showing some sense of responsibility as an elder brother. With a young lady now in the household, Pesu arranged for a new batch of maids and servants to be brought into the estate. One day I overheard Xiao instructing the newcomers, "As servants, loyalty is paramount. Then comes diligence and never ever gossip." Or else, a little maid asked curiously, "What would happen otherwise?" Xiao put on a stern face. "Otherwise, the mistress would feed you to the tigers." The young girls were so frightened they scattered in panic, only for Xiao to burst into laughter and say she was just teasing them. "Our mistress is wonderful." She's definitely the best mistress in the entire capital. I laughed too. This show had taken the casual words I'd said to her and used them to scare someone else. Only I wasn't trying to scare her. Those who betrayed me back then, like Chonkin and her lot, all met with terrible ends. But there's no need to tell such trivial matters to a silly girl like Show. Another spring arrived as I held my daughter, joining Peshu and Pin's family of 4 on a pilgrimage to Ling Shan Temple for blessings. When we reached the locust tree adorned with countless reddish ribbons, Pooh suddenly turned to look at me. Minga, do you still remember the day we first met? Before I could answer, Ten eagerly interjected. I remember, Dad. The moment you saw Mom, your eyes went all dazed. I was secretly looking down on you back then. And here you were, known in the army for your indifference to women. Pesu tapped him on the forehead. It wasn't your mother's looks that drew me in. A few months before we married, I came to Ling Shan Temple to pray for the Emperor's blessings. As I passed by this locust tree, a piece of red cloth fell from above. When I picked it up, I saw it was actually a small portrait of a woman. As he spoke, Pesu glanced at me sheepishly. I exclaimed in surprise. Was there also a line on that red cloth that said, "I hope your heart is like mine, never betraying our love's longing"? Pesu also quickly added, "Exactly. Could that red cloth really be yours? When I saw you that day, I just thought there was some resemblance, but I assumed it was just a coincidence." Blushing, I said it was mine. Before the wedding, I came here to pray for a good marriage, hoping that my future husband and I would understand each other's hearts. Well, your wish came true, Pesu said with a laugh. After picking it up, I hung the red cloth back on the tree. It might still be there now. Pen got excited and insisted on climbing the tree to find that red cloth. Surprisingly, Pooh joined in the fun, and the two of them, one big, one small, climbed up the tree together, foolishly searching around. A smile bloomed across my face as I looked down to play with my daughter in my arms. In truth, how could there be so many coincidences in this world? Don't you think so, little one? The swaddled infant naturally couldn't understand what I was saying. That year, after deciding to marry Peshu, I had relied on memories from my past life to wait here at Ling Shan Temple well in advance. As General Pai passed by the locust tree, I tossed the red cloth toward him with the wind. I watched him pick it up, watched his eyes light up with or at the woman in the portrait, when he discovered the accidental bride was none other than the woman in the painting. How could he not believe it was fate? In this life, 8 or 9 out of 10 things do not go as we wish. With careful calculation, it might still be possible to make up for 6 or 7 tenths of it. After all, in this lifetime I am happy.